think we have our first I wish they were neurotypical. Hello, my nimbuses, and welcome to Cloud Tunes. And today's video is going to be ranking autistic headcanons. And I was initially going to do this video for April, which is Autism Acceptance Month, but April was a pretty busy and turbulent month for me. My dog ended up passing away and then made the month so much worse. And actually this video took months of research because we are going to be covering 45 different characters from many different franchises. So it was a ton of research. I had to watch a few new series I was personally unfamiliar with, but I'm glad I did. I think I was able to find a few new series that I really liked. And I'm not going to include every autistic-coded character in here because there's just way too many. However, if there are enough requests to do another one of these videos, I will willingly do another video where I rank autistic-coded characters. And if your character wasn't there, let me know, because if I do another video like this in the future, I might include them. So to start off, I want to get on with the question, what makes a good autism representation? So I linked an article down in the bio about autism representation. It's a bit outdated. It's from 2019, but I think it's a really good, valid article, and here are a few pinpoints that was made. So when it comes to don'ts when writing autistic characters, a big one is don't listen to the horrible organization Autism Speaks. Probably one of the worst organizations in my opinion, up there with 1 Million Moms, which I did a video covering about that a bit ago. Also, no portraying autistic people as emotionless or just emotionally gone. Because a lot of autistic people do feel empathy. They don't really show as outwardly as neurotypical people. A recommendation is refraining from making autistic characters either robots or aliens, because it's definitely like a common trend where autistic-coded characters are either portrayed as robots or aliens. It's not always problematic. I think in some ways, yes, it can be effective, but a lot of times what comes off as autistic traits might just come off as being a foreigner. Another don't, and I think this one is very important in my opinion, because I think this is what a lot of people think when they think autistic characters: don't write savants. Obviously, I am not a fan of the savant trope. I think it's really harmful to autistic people because not every autistic person has a 200 IQ. And I don't want other autistic people to have to think that they have to live to this standard. But good autism representation typically includes autistic characters that are portrayed in romantic relationships. So does it mean they have to be portrayed in romantic relationships? No, because not every autistic person desires a romantic relationship. But it's nice to see autistic characters that either are in romantic relationships or that are seeking a romantic relationship, because not every autistic person is aro ace. Another one is make autistic people more adult, because newsflash, not all autistic people are super childish. Like, yes, you can define me as childish, like my room is light purple and I'm autistic, but I do a few things that are pretty adult that I think a lot of neurotypical people wouldn't assume I do. Like, I have a college degree, I drive a car. Like, yes, I have cartoon character posters in my room. I'm hyperfixated on cartoons, but it doesn't mean I'm completely childish. And I think another good one is giving autistic characters hyperfixations, because hyperfixations was always a big thing for me as an autistic person. Like, I always found that my hyperfixations pertain to specific fictional characters. And a lot of these fictional characters I personally would hyperfixate on were autistic, and some of them are on this list. And the last one in this article was give characters stims and sensory preferences, which I think we should normalize stimming, and sensory preferences is a big barrier for a lot of autistic people. And I think media that represents autistic people shouldn't just represent the good side of autism, but also the struggles that come with being autistic. And then I have a few points myself that I've personally noticed. I definitely want to see more autistic females, women, and genderqueer characters, as well as autistic LGBTQ people. A lot of the characters on this list are autistic women or autistic females or autistic queer characters, but they're not canonically autistic. And I definitely want to see, as I mentioned, more autistic struggle, not just like sensory issues, also how they are different from society and how that affects them, because I think that's a big part of the autism experience. So before we get on to the characters, so I have 45 characters lined up for this ranking. However, there are some characters I have decided to purposely exclude, and they are either confirmed autistic characters or semi-confirmed. Characters such as Entrapta from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, Rick from Rick and Morty, Reagan from Inside Job, and Norma from Dead End Paranormal Park. I think they're all good autism representation, but I feel like there's just too much confirmation for this video. So let's get on to the ranking. So the first character we have is Luz Noseda, and Luz is the titular character of the Owl House. I love that series. And Luz is heavily immersed in fantasy worlds, as shown in the first episode, and so much so that affected her school life, and she was recommended to go to some camp to help with that, but obviously she rebels against that and goes to the Boiling Isles. She socially struggles, and she is a detail-focused person, which is how she was able to succeed in Hexside. She was able to get through with the small details, and that's how she learned witchcraft. And I really like her as an autistic person. She's also bisexual. She is also Afro-Latina. And I definitely like seeing more autistic people of color being shown, as a white person even. So I think I'm going to put her under peak autism. There she goes. So the second character I really, really like. It's Wander from Wander Over Yonder. Such an underrated series. So he has a very strong sense of justice, which I really like. And a big part of his story is that Lord Hater really does not like him, so he doesn't pick up on those cues. And he always acts like so lovingly towards Lord Hater, despite Lord Hater absolutely like hating him. And he just wants to help out. He's just a very positive guy, but not like the toxic positivity. But I will say he is sometimes detached from reality, which sometimes you get so caught up in what you want to do that you get detached from reality. And I'm gonna say he's peak autism. I really like him as a character, and I think he's great autism representation. So the next character is Star Butterfly. So Star Butterfly is the titular character of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and she is commonly headcanon to be autistic. She struggles to understand context, like in the scene in the second episode of the show when Miss Skolnick was talking about how she was dumped by a guy at the dock. She thought it was all about the dock.
I finally got a guy with a boat, and he left me at the dock. The dock? The dock isn't the important part!
So she always gets, like, the wrong part of the context. She's a very quick speaker, which I am as well. Maybe I need to speak a little slower for this video so my words don't get jumbled up. And I've noticed, especially in the earlier seasons, other characters, especially Marco, get really annoyed with her behavior. Not just Marco, Brittany, the cheerleader, got very annoyed with her. And Star was not really able to pick up on that. Like, others being annoyed with her behaviors did not deter her from doing what she does.
I know on planet Mooney, or wherever it is you're from, it may be okay to be stupid, but no pesky magical foreigner is going to question my leadership. You're officially banned from the Spirit Committee.
And she's shown to stem and flap her hands, and I think that's great. She's great representation. And I will put out there, yeah, she is considerably an alien, but the reason why she was sent to Earth was because she wasn't on good behavior according to her parents. So I think I'm gonna put her in peak representation. So the next character, another very popular one, and it is Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls. And she is known to mainly wear sweaters for sensory reasons. Throughout the series, she was mainly wearing sweaters. And she struggles with volume control. Like, sometimes she speaks really loudly. And she finds comfort in her pig Waddles. But she seems to have a good social life. Like, she has her friends, Candy and Grenda. Stuff like that. I think I'm going to put her in peak autism because I think she's shown to have a good social life despite her traits. And I like that she's being accepted in that way. And then I'm gonna do her twin brother, Dipper, who is also heavily headcanon to be autistic. Dipper speaks literally and is hyper-focused on journals. Like, everything about Dipper was all about the journals this, the journals that. And another big thing I want to point out is his obsession with Wendy. Like, he had a huge crush on Wendy going into Gravity Falls, and he struggled to accept when Wendy did not like him back. And that is actually a very common thing with autistic people, but honestly, I don't really condone that behavior. I think, like, he literally forced Wendy and Robbie to break up. And while, yes, it's okay to represent autistic people with bad behavior, I just think it's not okay to condone this because I don't really think he faced much of the consequences of what he did to Wendy. But I love Dipper as a character, so I'm gonna put him in a little bit of flautism. Yeah, sorry. So the next character is Marcy Wu from Amphibia. I really love this character. She is hyper-focused on puzzles. Like, she's really big into puzzles. Very hyper-focused. She is also known as the clumsy character. And she is easily tricked into situations, which is why King Andreas manipulated her and turned her into Darcy Wu. And she doesn't seem to pay attention to her surroundings. I think she's peak representation. Honestly, I can relate to that, but probably that's because I also have ADHD. So, yeah, I think she's great representation. So the next character is Milo Murphy, and I did watch the series for the first time for this video specifically. And if you don't know, Milo Murphy is actually a request from DL, one of my Discord friends. He's known to have unusual speech patterns, and he's more interested in physics rather than social interactions, because in the first episode, he is shown to not know how to socially interact with his two friends. Rather, he cares more about physics to solve things, and sometimes it does bother people. And it does cause him to put his friends in harm's way, accidentally. Maybe not purposely, but I think he cares more about the logical reasoning. I think because he cares more about, like, the logical reasoning, and he does feel like a very smart, savantic character, even though I can relate to his issues with social interactions. I think I'm just gonna put him in a little bit of flautism. So, now we're gonna talk about Ferb Fletcher from Phineas and Ferb. So, Ferb is mostly nonverbal, and he's shown to have, like, bland facial expressions, and he mainly talks when it's just, like, really important, and it's very monotone.
Maybe you can teach Perry some tricks. Well, he's a platypus. They don't do much.
They're the only mammals to lay eggs.
Maybe he'll lay an egg.
But I will say I do like that he's shown to have romantic interest in Vanessa. I just don't like when he talks. I feel like it's used for the humor aspect, but that is just my opinion, so I'm just gonna put him in some flautism. He's still a great character, though. Next character is Lilo Picali from Lilo and Stitch. And in the beginning of the movie, she is heavily bullied and struggles to make friends. She has very rigid thinking, and she is hyperfixated with Elvis Presley. She also enjoys taking photos of tourists in Hawaii. I really like this whole, like, subversion, because typically when you're a tourist, you like taking photos of the locals. So I really like that subversion of that. And I really like how she is a native Hawaiian, autistic-coded character. She also finds comfort in her doll, so I think I'm gonna put her in peak autism. So the next character is Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph. And I did a video on Ralph Breaks the Internet like 6 months ago. If you'd like, you can check it out. But I recently rewatched the first Wreck-It Ralph, and I had a lot to say about how Vanellope is portrayed. So she definitely was a misfit amongst the Sugar Rush characters. And she seems to have a preference for comfortable clothes, as she is wearing sweatshirt with comfortable tights. I actually dressed as Vanellope one year for Halloween, and I can actually confirm that. And she's actually bullied and mocked by the other Sugar Rush kids for her glitch.
And then all of a sudden, oh no, I'm glitching! See? You're an accident, just waiting to happen. Oh no, I glitched too!
And I think her glitch could be a really good allegory for autism, especially the way she was mocked. Like, the kids were mocking her like she was stimming. And I think that makes her peak autism because it actually shows what autistic people go through. So the next character was a highly requested one, and it is Rapunzel from Tangled. And I really do enjoy the movie Tangled. I recently rewatched it for this video, and I rewatched it again with my nephew. So Rapunzel is presented as a very awkward character, and she has strong connections with animals such as Pascal and Maximus, because I know Flynn Rider initially did not get along with Maximus until Rapunzel tamed him. She's also very good at art and cooking and very hyper-focused on things, but I will say this is probably because she lived in the tower and was super isolated for 18 years. So I don't know if it's exactly an autistic trait. I think it just comes off as autistic traits because she never learned social interaction. So I'm just gonna say some flautism, but I could see where the headcanon is coming from. Another really popular character is Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I also really like that movie. She really likes collecting things, and she has strong connections with animals as well as Rapunzel, like such as Flounder and Sebastian. A big thing is that she struggles to fit in with the other mermaids and she wants to be a human. That's like the big part of her arc. And she could be a good allegory for autism. Like, yeah, these are traits and she wants to be a human. I think it is an allegory for autism. It can also be an allegory for being queer. So I think I'm just gonna put her in a little bit of flautism, because I think I could see where the headcanon is coming from, but it feels more like an allegory rather than an autism headcanon. So the next character, this is a character I personally relate to in middle school. It is Violet Parr from The Incredibles. I was obsessed with her in middle school. So Violet Parr is known to have very unusual speech patterns, and she sometimes struggles with volume control. She's also shown to be struggling socially in the first and second Incredibles, especially when she is introduced as a character and is very isolated from her peers. It could be attributed to her being a superpowered child, but she just doesn't seem to know or understand how to have a social interaction with her peers. And she's obsessed with the kid, Tony Reidinger. In the second movie, she had a meltdown over the supersuit when Tony saw her in the supersuit, and she literally bites and puts the supersuit in the shredder, even though that doesn't deter the supersuit. But I know Dash puts it off as having an adolescence, but I don't think someone who is neurotypical would have a meltdown like that. So I would say my only criticism of her as an autistic character is that in the end of the first Incredibles, she changes her style just to fit in more with her peers, because she decided to wear bright pink. I think if she just kept on with what she wore before, I think it would have been better, because at least it's giving off the message that she is being herself no matter what. So I'm gonna put her in a little bit of flautism. So the next character, another character I also really used to love, was Riley Anderson from Inside Out. And she is shown at times when she's in new situations. She definitely has social goals, but a lot of times she does not know how to hit those goals. And in the second movie, she is shown to break into the office of her hockey coach to see if she made it onto the team, just to find out at the time they didn't put her on the team. And that is likely a symptom of rejection-sensitive dysphoria, which is actually something I personally struggle with. And she arguably has a special interest in hockey, because in the first and second movie, she is a hockey player, and that is a big core part of her personality as shown in her mind. But I will say the big issue I have with her as an autistic character is that her arc is centered around her mind and her emotions. And I feel like that's just so invasive, in my opinion. Like, you can say she's an amazing autism representation, and I can say she is outside of that, but that is just so invasive. I'm gonna put her in a little bit of flautism. So, the next character is Mabel Tanaka from Hoppers. Hoppers is such a good movie. I really liked it. So, she has a strong sense of justice. She would do anything out of her way to get her point across that she is against the mayor civilizations in animal areas. And she doesn't care about the rules. She will obsessively do it. She will go out of her way to save animals in nature, and she's also shown to have a strong connection with animals in nature. But we don't know exactly how she is socially around other people her age, because all the other characters in the movie are much older than her. So I can't really say how she is socially wise with other people her age. But I'm gonna say she's peak autism. I really like her as a character. So the next character was a request from MLP Disney Lover, her YouTube channel. I'll link it in the bio. It was also a request from DL, and that character is Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony. And from the first episode, you can tell she's like very rigid about her schedule and about Princess Celestia. Like, if it doesn't go her way, it upsets her, and I have the same issue. And when she first goes into Equestria, she is seen to not interact well with the other ponies, especially Pinkie Pie, and she struggles to understand the social concepts in Equestria. So I think I'm gonna put her in peak autism. I do enjoy her as a character. So the next character is Peridot from Steven Universe, a very popular headcanon. So Peridot uses alternative forms of communication, like a tablet. And she has echolalia. She likes to say the word clods a lot.
You clod!
Very literal in like her speaking and how she thinks. And she is rude a lot of times without intention, which is very common with autistic people, because a lot of times we just don't understand how to make an interaction. And she needs predictability and routine. And I think she is peak autism representation. And then the next one is another Steven Universe character, and it is Pearl. And I have, like, different opinions on Pearl. She doesn't understand jokes very well. Like, when the other gems make jokes, she just doesn't care. She is quite blunt in nature, and quite obsessive over rose quartz. And she is very much an overplanner. I think she is a great character. I do enjoy her arc, but I will say, I feel like her obsession with rose quartz sometimes overshadows everything else. So I'm gonna put her in a little bit of flautism. So the next character is Zim from Invader Zim. So yes, Zim is an alien, but he was casted out by both the Urkins and the humans. Like, Dib was always, like, annoyed with Zim in the show. He is a very loud speaker, and he just doesn't pick up on the fact that Dib especially doesn't like him. I'm gonna say he does have a lot of flautism, though. Mainly, yeah, because he's an alien, but also because he is kind of a psychopath after that whole Dark Harvest episode. I don't know if we want to be represented by psychopaths, but yeah, a lot of autism. Next character, I love him, or I think we all love him except for my mom. SpongeBob. He is incredibly hyper-focused as his job as a fry cook at the Krusty Krab. Like, he loves going to work. I wish I could have the same attitude as SpongeBob. And he's also known to constantly annoy Squidward.
Do you know what today is?
Annoy Squidward Day.
Ah, no, silly.
So, SpongeBob as a character is oblivious to how much he annoys Squidward, and I feel like the biggest issue with SpongeBob is how sometimes he is overly oblivious about things. About how he annoys Squidward, stuff like that. I think I'm gonna put him in a bit of flautism. I love him as a character, and I think he's great autism representation. It's just sometimes it's annoying how oblivious he can be, especially in the later seasons. But speaking of Squidward, we're gonna do Squidward next. I love Squidward as a character, but I have opinions about him as an autistic character. Squidward is definitely socially isolated. He obviously usually does not like guests in his house. He finds comfort in playing the clarinet, and he is an incredibly brutally honest person. You do not want to annoy him, but I think his biggest issue is that he is mainly used as a punching bag, and I do not like it when autistic characters are mainly used as a punching bag. Like, maybe in the earlier seasons it was funny, but one of the biggest criticisms of newer SpongeBob is all the Squidward torture, so I'm gonna put him in a lot of flautism. The next character is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He thinks really literally and struggles to make friends. He, scripts his conversations, which is quite relatable, hyperfixated on honor, and he's very set on being the Fire Nation prince. I will say, though, a lot of it probably stems from trauma. Like, he was trained by his father to be the prince of the Fire Nation, and I think a lot of his behaviors are not attributed to autism, but rather by trauma, so I'm gonna say he has some flautism. He is still a great character, and I still love his arc, though. The next character is someone I personally relate to as an autistic adult. We're going into video game territory, and that character is Alphys from Undertale. And I have talked about her in a video essay I made a few years ago. I'm gonna link it down below. Alphys is known to be hyperfixated on an in-universe anime called Mew Mew Kissy Cutie, and I really like that she has a hyperfixation that is common with autistic people, such as anime. Despite her being a scientist, she is a scientist character. She is known to have a poor posture and speech impediments, as shown in her dialogue. She is shown to struggle socially and struggle to talk to Undyne especially. I know she has a lot of anxiety around her crush on Undyne, but she is also shown to have other mental disorders such as anxiety and depression, which is very common with autistic people. A lot of her arc is dealing with the trauma, but I definitely think she's autistic, and also I really like the fact that she's also a canonically queer character, so she is definitely peak autism. There's no buts about that. The next character is another Undertale character that is a more popular headcanon than Alphys, and it is Papyrus. I do love Papyrus as a character as well, so don't worry. He is implied to have loud and exaggerated speech, mainly because his dialogue is in all capital letters. He hyperfixates on cars and figurines. He has, figurines around his room. And another big thing is how much spaghetti he eats. He loves his spaghetti. Well, or he loves making spaghetti. Maybe he doesn't eat spaghetti. And he always yells at Sans over the smallest little details. Also, when you as the player try to date him, he does not know how to confess to you. I think he's a great character. I'm actually going to put him in peak autism as well. Do I relate to him as much as Alphys? No, but I think he's a great autistic character. So, the next character is Blathers from Animal Crossing. He's the museum director in the Animal Crossing games. He has extensive knowledge of artifacts and paintings. He's even mentioned he writes fanfiction about that kind of stuff. Which I'm like, how do you write fanfiction about dinosaur bones? Like, is that actually a thing on AO3? And if you play the game and get annoyed with Blathers, there is a option to stop him from talking and info dumping to you. He's also known to be very creeped out around bugs, so make sure you don't give Blathers a bug. He will not like that. And I think he has some flautism, mainly because of the option to stop him from talking about his hyperfixations. Sorry, Blathers. So now we're gonna get into Has-Been Hotel territory. MLP Disney Lover has requested a few Has-Been Hotel characters. And the first one I'm gonna cover is Charlie, the main character of Has-Been Hotel. She is very focused on the hotel's reputation, sometimes to the point where she hurts other people or almost kills other people, such as Husk. She almost killed Husk just to show that redemption is possible. She was also overly obsessed with Sir Pentious when she first met Baxter, and she was mentioning Pentious when Baxter should have been knowing about the hotel rather than Pentious. And I could see why that would be very off-putting. She overshares, and other characters have called her out for hyperfixating on stuff. I think, yeah, she's a very flawed character, and a lot of people have gotten annoyed with her as a character. So I'm gonna put her in a little bit of flautism. I still think she's a great character, though, and I still think she would be good at autism representation, especially that she's canonically queer, but yeah, I'm gonna put her in a little bit of flautism. The next character, I did aforemention this character, is Sir Pentious himself, the snake boy. He is obsessed with his egg boys, and when Vaggie tried to take him away from him, he was not happy with that.
What? Not my little egg boys! They do my evil bidding for me!
But in season 2, when they mention Sir Pentious during his lifetime, he was described as a recluse. That is very common for autistic people. Doesn't mean someone is autistic, but that is quite common. And he has some speech impediments and is a lot of times off-put, like especially by the Heaven characters such as Emily, Abel, and St. Peter a lot because they were just overly positive. So he seems to have sensory issues. I love Sir Pentious. He is peak autism. So this character, this other Has-Been Hotel character, I decided to put because he's my favorite Has-Been Hotel character. Fight me on that. His name is Baxter, another scientist. But I love how he's just a completely different character to Sir Pentious, despite having a similar role. Even though they do mention he's the new Pentious. You can criticize Has-Been Hotel all you want. I highly criticize the show as well, but I think they did well in that aspect. So Baxter is shown to be very socially unaware, especially the scene where Husk leads a therapy session and starts insulting Rooster and calls, like, Rooster a damn fool and a chuckle fuck. All he does is just repeat those insults. He thinks that's what therapy is all about. And he's like, oh yeah, I like therapy. He is hyper-focused on science experiments. It is very much shown in the show. He has poor posture. He is also shown to have the raptor arms. I was so excited when I saw that. I was like, yeah, we have another autistic character in our hands. And he's also shown to have sensory issues, and he does do a hand or arm rubbing stim when he has sensory issues. He does quote that he likes his blankets tucked in a certain way. I'm gonna insert the clip.
Hi. Well, you made sure that my blankets were always folded at my requested 45-degree angle to make it more tuckable to my liking. So I assume that made us best friends. Isn't it obvious?
And that's actually where a lot of people, like, started to say he's autistic, but I think it's more than just the whole blanket thing. I wish that was shown in the show rather than just explained, but yeah, Baxter is peak autism. And if they confirm him to be trans, I think that would even be better because there are so many autistic trans people, and I don't think I've seen a single canonical autistic trans character. So, I have two more requests here from MLP Disney Lover. They wanted to do the characters from The Amazing Digital Circus, specifically Gangle. So, if you know Gangle's design, she is a comedy tragedy mask. And it could be an autism allegory to mask, because obviously a lot of autistic people mask to fit in. She does have limited expressions because she is a mask. And she is also shown to be hyperfixated on anime and drawing. I really like seeing autistic people that are hyper-focused on media that is considered weird and stuff like that. I guess because that's how I am. And she also is implied to be in a semi-relationship with Zubul. So I think I'm going to put her in peak autism. I love her as a character. The other character is the main character of the Amazing Digital Circus, Pomni. She is shown to have awkward poses and T-Rex arms. And in the second episode, she was shown to have hyperempathy for Gummy Goo, even though everybody else in the cast was saying Gummy Goo is an NPC, you shouldn't have empathy for them. She socially withdraws from the other characters, and I think a lot of it could be situational, like being put in this digital circus or being trapped in there is very off-putting, but I still think she is a great representation. So the next character is Daria, from her show Daria, or from Beavis and Butthead. She is known to be asocial, and she has mentioned that the other kids don't interest her.
Why don't you meet us halfway and try talking to the other kids?
They don't say anything that interests me.
She is constantly putting others out of ease. I am not too familiar with Daria. I just did a little bit of research, watched a couple of clips. So from what I know, I'm gonna say a little bit of flautism. She does seem like a good autistic character. I just think she's a little too monotone or emotionless for me. The next character was a request from somebody. It is Mugman from the Cuphead show specifically, not the game. I have played the game and I've also watched the show. I actually was really hyper-fixated on Cuphead when I was younger. So Mugman is very cautious and protective, and he's also very routine-based. So routine-based that there was an episode where there was an ice cream truck that kept going on, and he hated the noise of the ice cream truck. And this would happen while he was reading his, fan fiction. And it just got to him so much that he almost stabbed the ice cream man. He's also shown to have a lot of sensory issues. So I'm gonna put him in a little bit of flautism just because I think he was just going through a psychotic breakdown with the whole ice cream man. I don't like it when autistic people are represented as psychopaths. The next character is Aaron from The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and he was definitely the character I pointed out. I was like, he's definitely autistic. And I think his scene where he interacts with a girl and just freezes up when the girl tried to ask him about dinosaurs is just amazing. And yeah, he is very hyperfixated on dinosaurs, but the fact that he wasn't able to get a social interaction, even if it was about his hyperfixation, because he doesn't know how to speak to someone, is just great. I think he's peak autism representation all the way. The next character is Zoe from K-pop Demon Hunters. She's basically the idea person of the Huntrix trio, and she has multiple notebooks with all her ideas, and owns a whole notebook for demon insults. Yeah, move over, Baxter. We got Zoe here, who's gonna insult y'all demons in therapy. She commonly asks the other trio, Mira and Rumi, if she is being too much, and she does deal with common autism insecurities. I don't think I have anything bad to say about Zoe. I'm gonna put her in peak autism. The next character is a very popular headcanon. It is Wednesday Addams, specifically from the Wednesday series, because I know a lot of people have headcanoned her to be autistic. She is very socially withdrawn and adverse to touch. She doesn't like it when people get close to her. She is very routine-focused, speaks in a very monotone voice, and has sensory issues to color. Which, those are all understandable autistic traits, but I feel also, while, yeah, she is off-putting to other people, I feel it's just way too over-exaggerated, in my opinion. So I'm gonna put her in some flautism. Her traits are very understandable, but I just don't like how over-exaggerated there are. That's just me. The next character is Lydia Dietz from Beetlejuice. I'm probably gonna refer more to the first Beetlejuice, but one of her most iconic quotes is, "I too am strange and unusual." I really love that quote.
I myself am strange and unusual.
She really likes photography. She always has her camera around her, and she feels a stronger connection with the dead rather than living. And that's not just with the character, well, not really with the character Beetlejuice. She also feels strong connection with Barbara and her husband. So I think I'm gonna put her in peak autism. I really like how she's also, like, considerably a creepy character without being psycho. The next character is incredibly controversial, and it is Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. Oh god. And I know, like, the people behind The Big Bang Theory don't really want to confirm or deny whether or not he's autistic, but it's still, like, a very popular headcanon. So he is, like, the definition of a savant and has the whole lack of emotion thing. I feel like a lot of his traits are used for humor. Hates sudden changes, unintentionally rude, and unusual speech patterns. I do not like how his traits are used for humor, and I do not like the savant trope. I think we have our first "I wish they were neurotypical." So, I have another few requests from MLP Disney Lover. You should go subscribe to her. But, she introduced me to a show called Sex Education, which I knew a little bit about, but never got to watch it until researching this video, and she requested the character Otis, who is the main character of Sex Education. He is kind of the Mr. Know-It-All when it comes to sex, because his mom is a sex therapist. He's quite awkward, and especially towards Maeve, he has a crush on another character named Maeve. And, you know, he's just kind of like the typical awkward boy. I think I'm gonna put him in some autism. But this character, I think she's really good representation, and I heard it's a common headcanon. It is Lily Ingham. I'm gonna talk a little bit about kinks very briefly. If that makes you uncomfortable, you can skip to this timestamp. But with Lily, she doesn't understand boundaries and has a lot of interest in sex and kink despite not having participated in the activity. But her struggle with boundaries was one time she undressed in front of Eric, who's a gay man that didn't have interest in having sex with her. People have to be very literal with her for her to respect boundaries, and later parts of the series she kind of masks and has to give up her passions to fit in with what others want. And I'm gonna put that as peak autism. I think she would be great representation. The next character is Robin Buckley from Stranger Things, who is one of my personal favorite Stranger Things characters. She struggles with boundaries a lot and always has to over-explain herself. She doesn't understand tone. And I'm gonna be honest, Maya Hawke was the perfect voice for anxiety from Inside Out 2, because I hear that in, like, Robin so well. Like, Robin is, like, just super anxious, super awkward, in a good way. Also, she is canonically queer, which I like. I'm gonna put her in peak autism. I love her. Okay, we have a few more characters left, starting with Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He does not understand the idea of cool, or what's trending. He's known to have communication deficits with other people. He hates loud noises, considered introverted and very socially awkward, and he is heavily invested in marine biology. Another thing I wanted to point out about Jotaro Kujo is that he is incredibly misogynistic against women and definitely shows that he has a vendetta against women, which isn't a good look on his part. But I think also a lot of it was situational because his life unexpectedly changed and he had to go to Egypt to save his mother. So I'm gonna say a lot of flautism. Just because it might be situational, and there is a lot of discourse from what I noticed from the fandom whether or not he's autistic. Next character is Ryunosuke Naruhodo from one of the Ace Attorney games. He has a lack of confidence and a people pleaser. He likes to collect trinkets, which I wouldn't say is an autistic trait, but a lot of autistic people do that. He has a lack of awareness towards social issues, and I am actually not that familiar with Ace Attorney. This was actually a request, so from what I know, I'm gonna put him in a little bit of autism. But let me know what you think. Next character is Spock from Star Trek. He is shown to STEM, and he is quite logical, thinks very literally, and has a lack of emotion. And I know he's a great character, and people love him, but I feel like because he's an alien and he doesn't show much emotion, I'm gonna put him in I wish they were neurotypical. I'm sorry. Okay, our final two characters. Dr. Gregory House. I love the show House. He does not like meeting patients. He is always like very against being around his patients because it means socializing. However, there was an episode in season 3 called Lines in the Sand where another character brings up that Dr. House might have symptoms of Asperger's. I know that's an outdated term. I think that episode was made in 2006 or 2007, but the whole episode was about treating an autistic kid, so that's why it was brought up. But he doesn't show much empathy. Like, I think he is a really fun character, and I do definitely enjoy him as a character, but obviously the whole cold stare, he just seems like the most emotionless, blunt, autistic person. I'm gonna put him in a lot of autism. Okay, so the last character is Drax the Destroyer from Guardians of the Galaxy. Whew! So he is a very brutally honest character, and he doesn't really understand sarcasm, and is implied to have sensory issues, which is why he doesn't wear a shirt. But a lot of it, as I said, with a lot of other characters, could be situational because he is grieving the loss of his wife and daughter, especially with him being super blunt. So I'm gonna put it in some autism. So here we go. We got our charts. Let me know if you disagree with me. Like, I would love to know what you think in the comments, because I feel like not everything I put in there is gonna be 100% accurate. And a lot of it is maybe my most personal bias, whether it's towards the character or how they're represented. But just because I put a character in a lot of autism or I wish they were neurotypical doesn't mean I hate the character. I'm just letting you know. Because a character being bad autism representation and hating a character are two different things. But what I've learned from this video is that typically a lot of the really well-written autistic-coded characters are typically done by creators or people on staff that are likely neurodivergent, like Viv Z Pop herself. Think of her as you will. But she did mention she is neurodivergent. And I think that's why a lot of her autistic characters are better written than some of the other characters I discussed. And it seems like a lot of the shows that have peak autism characters, they do have a majority autistic fan base, which likely means that maybe someone on staff is autistic and understands these characters on a personal level. But I could be wrong, so maybe take what I say with a grain of salt. I will link some sources down below, and who knows, maybe at some point I will make another video like this and include more characters that I might get requested for. Thank you so much for watching. I hope my Nimbuses have an amazing day, and goodbye!